Welcome. Today we are going to be cleaning out my Magna Carta Mag 600, and we are cleaning it out for an upcoming review comparison that I'm going to be doing of this pen. What you're going to need is some water, clean water, a vessel for inky water. You're going to need your trusty bulb syringe. I love air in a can for a lot of purposes, compressed air, and then some Q-tips and some extra paper towels. All right, so let's start by going ahead and admiring this beauty of a pen first. Ooh, look at that. Love the blues, love the contrast. Very shimmery in the sunlight. All right, so we can do the cap, and we might as well just go ahead and start with that because now I'm talking about it. So, all right, so I wet a Q-tip, go around the threads. You're going to get any little drops. See all that blue there? You're going to get all that out. Let's move some of the stuff so the focus stays well. Okay, same thing. Let's go again, only this time we're going to go a little deeper. And you see we get some more there. Let's get ourselves a pen holder. We're going to need one. There we go. All right, next one. So third Q-tip here. And this time I went all the way down. Not too bad. So I might do one more bit of the threads, but overall, not too much in the cap, so that was pretty good. This pen was mostly in a pen case. It was only carried in the Galen leather portfolio for today, actually. So not much agitation. So that's good to see that there's not excess ink floating around in there. All right, cool. A little bit of compressed air, get any fibers out from the Q-tip. Good to go. The pen. First, we're disassembling the body. Comes right off. You can see I've got a tiny bit of ink in there left, but we're actually going to go ahead and take that converter out anyway. Here we go. I've filled my thing with water here. I'm just going to do that until it more or less runs clean. You can see when you slow it down how much inkier each drop gets, and that's why I like to do that slow method that I'll show you later with the paper towel. Really works wonders. I'm going to get up in that feed hole, everything around there. So as you can see, this took an entire little vessel of water there to get to where that it's sort of running clean, and it's still a little tinge of blue there, but I'm going to go to my slower method now. And you can just go ahead and use a paper towel and all the little bits that you can touch. Be very careful when you touch the feed of the nib. You don't want to impart pressure. You're literally just allowing that paper towel to go ahead and soak things up. Alrighty, so one of the reasons I wanted to clean this out too was because I just filmed a review of this pen, and I had mentioned that there was some imprecision in the threads. It was loose when I got it, and I just kind of reported that I felt imprecision on those threads. So I wanted to try and go ahead and kind of just reconfirm that. So if you look here, you're going to see a little bit of ink. I usually don't see ink on that part of the feed. And you can see some blue there. That definitely is ink that's seeped down. That's not water. Okay, let's see how much ink there is here. It's not an inconsequential amount of ink, I will say that. I've gotten this to where, you know, I don't mind having it. It's got a good enough airtight seal, but I don't know, just a little bit dismaying at that price point. Okay, let's see how much was in the cap here. It's enough that it's noticeable, you know, it's not like the end of the world, but again, it's kind of noticeable. All right, So that ink there, and here came out of the interior where the threads are here. I think I'm going to give this one more go, and then after that I might even try a little bit of something, some sort of grease or something to align these threads to prevent that from happening. But for now I'm going to go ahead and try it again for our next test. Counter threading in. I felt it click. All the way down. Okay. Now I'm going to try and tighten. Okay. Hopefully that does the trick. I don't want to over tighten because I'm actually scared of... Ah, crap. Oh, hope I didn't over tighten it. Actually, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and look in the flashlight and see if there's any cracked threads or anything. That part looks good. Got a million different settings on this flashlight I gotta check. It's hard to see, but I mean, visibly it looks fine. I don't see any deformation of the threads, anything like that. Like, it looks like it should be fine. There's no visual indication that anything's off, misaligned, misthreaded. There it is. Okay. I'm going to give that a go. Alrighty, let's do this. This is the original converter that came with it. It's a Schmidt. Go ahead and do that. It feels like it is seated securely. So we're loading this up with my favorite ink overall for my next comparison. And that ink is Arctic Blue. This is my overall favorite ink. This is a nice blue with a lot of shading. It's got red sheen around the edges of the writing and where that ink gets thicker. And it's got a lovely amount of silver shimmer. Lots of agitation. I will say, diamine's never given me an issue with shimmer. Some brands have too much shimmer and it causes issues. Diamine seems to more or less give me easy flow in all my pens. All right, that's good. Let's do this. Looks like we had a beautiful success there as far as our seal. So yeah, those threads, as you could see, there was a little bit of, it wasn't quite airtight. There was some seepage through of a little bit of ink. And even the first time I tightened it, it was like, I got to a point where I felt it was almost there and I went to tighten it just ever so much. And then it went into a point of, suddenly you could move it more. And that, you know, I think I've only ever stripped one thing, and that's due to Loctite. I've never stripped anything, basically. I'm very careful with this stuff. And the fact that that kind of happens to me, it gives me a tiny bit of pause. It's not to the point where I would say, don't order this pen, because the nib is worth it. But at the same time, none of my other pens really have ever given me that issue. It's just something where I'm aware of it, and I'm a little bit more delicate when I'm tightening these threads and working on this pen. Now, I will say I have yet to actually remove the nib and the feed from that assembly. I've gone as far as unscrewing that assembly. I have yet to actually remove this nib. But on this case, I do think I got a good, decently airtight fill. That's looking good. So I think this is ready to go. And ready for our upcoming adventures, including comparison against other Flex pens. Well, I guess we should get a writing sample before we leave. All right, let's go ahead and get that awesome writing sample. You notice I really wait while I'm flexing. Slow down to to let that feed catch up with the increased ink that you are requiring of it. Alright, so my writing sample came out just fine, not worried about any flow issues. And up here you see that was as light as I could do with no pressure, where you've got those fine lines. That's actually really difficult to do on this pen because this nib, as I mentioned in the review, is so soft and so flexy that that is not its forte. If you're trying to get lots of fine writing out of this one, it's not its forte because it is more flexy. That regular writing, as I don't really pay too much attention, I'm just writing as I would in a journal or to a letter to a friend. I'm just not thinking about my writing. I'm just letting my thoughts flow. And then you can see when you do want to flex, the line variation that you can get. And this again was the move too fast and at an angle there. Now that's one of the things when you flex, like if you follow this channel, you know if you flex, you should always flex on the downward. This was part of a flex. What I should have done is flexed up here as I was coming down and lightened up, but I kept that flex into that curve. And what happens there is because you have uneven pressure on the tines, you essentially have like a bubble. You have a little bubble of ink, and as long as that bubble of ink is intact, your ink will flow and you will have no railroads. If one of your tines is more aligned, if one of your tines is misaligned from the other too far, that bubble will pop, and then that's essentially what you have there. Then you've just got the bubble pops, so you don't have the interior filled, and you've just got those two little outlines from the two tines that still have some ink. So what you can do, because it's just, you know, it's water-based ink, this is one of the advantages, is you can just add a little bit more and it all connects and flows and dries nicely, so you won't even tell that that was a railroad. But that goes again to show you need to be very conscious of when and where you're flexing. You should only be flexing on that downward flow. And this was not me concentrating, this was just me kind of casually writing, but it goes again to show you need to only flex on that downward stroke. If you start to flex at a unique angle, especially some sort of diagonal or something like that, not only are you more likely to get railroads, but you might even damage the tines. So this one's so flexy and has such good kind of soft bounce that I'm not worried about it at all. This thing's fine. This thing loves being flexed. So, and that was a much better example, right? The C and the 6 are essentially the same thing, just the tail is different, but that was much better because, as you see, I flexed there and then I tried to let up on pressure, so it started to thin out by here, and that's really what you want to do. And then the excess ink that you accumulated from the flex will carry you through this part for that line variation, but you don't want to be flexing as you go into those sharp diagonal or horizontal lines. And here we are, our final Mag 600, like I said, with those boxes of fine, medium, and flex, so you can kind of see how the line variation can come into play. All right, guys, there you have it. I've disassembled and cleaned my Magna Carta Mag 600 for an upcoming comparison against other flex pens, and this was also my, I think, third complete, well, not complete disassembly, but relatively complete disassembly for cleaning. And this was, again, to kind of, I almost wanted to, after making those comments on the review, I really wanted to go back and just ascertain, were those comments accurate? Because what you're saying has some weight to some people out there, and what you're saying could have ramifications. So I really wanted to ensure that what I was saying was accurate. And after going back and looking at those threads again, I do still stand by my original statement that there is some imprecision there. As you could see in that video, I got to a point where I was like, normally I would tighten a little tighter on most of my other pens, and when I gave it that force, it suddenly loosened and then tightened up again. And I just took the entire unit out and put it back in. I'm comfortable with this, but at the same time, I am very conscientious of my pressure while I am threading this more so than other pens. But I'm confident in this pen. I've had no flow issues since my disassembly from talking to Goulet Pens and them telling me to kind of go ahead and play around with that unit, see if I can't tighten it up. Not something to be expected at this price point, but it is what it is. It's, you know, it's, I mean, hey, it's like buying a Lamborghini. When it works, it's an amazing in-tune experience, and it is above all else. But it takes a lot to make that happen. It's just something where you have to take a little bit more care when you are cleaning your Magna Carta Mag 600. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for sticking with me on the journey, and I hope to see you soon. May your journey lead to serenity.